Voice Resurgence, Glade Cover Scout, Witch Stalker, Selesnya Charm, Madcap Scales, Unflinching Courage, Chain to the Rocks, Ethereal Armor, all 4 ofs, and then 3 Gorkland Rampagers slide in there as well. She's going to play a Sacred Foundry untapped here, Will Sanchez. I'm going to have to talk to one of these Naya Hexproof players, as you know, this deck's starting to pick up, and starting off 6-0. It's pretty impressive, gotta say.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that there's just not that many creatures in the deck.
Yeah.
That's to me, appears to be the biggest weakness.
Here's Selesnya Charm, playing many roles in this deck, up to and including creature. So we'll get a 2/2 Vigilance token out there in a moment.
But this is the type of threat that Chris is very well equipped to handle.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
There's no hexproof, there's no resistance to anything, so various Azorius charms and what have you can handle this pretty easily.
Yeah, that's one of the worst creatures that you can actually suit up here in the deck. Arguably the worst, as there is Glade Cover Scout, Voice Resurgence, and Witch Stalker in the deck. There is the mighty Reed Duke ready for service. Oh, there is a Stomping Ground. That's going to come into play on tap. So Sanchez is going to go down to 16. Not really a big deal that he's taking a bunch of damage against Esper Control, as Esper takes plenty of time to win. Might see an Azorius Charm here. Place Reed Duke on top of Sanchez's deck, and that's what we will see. So, bye-bye goes the token. See, Sanchez does have Witch Stalker available, so he will cast that. So 3/3 Hexproof creature in play. And now Chris Boozer knows exactly what he's up against.
Correct. And Chris's deck is, you know, this is pretty much Supreme Verdict or bust for Chris. There are no copies of Devour Flesh, not a lot of ways to, you know, not that much in the way of early blockers, and so this is going to put Chris to the test.
And it looks like Chris's Esper deck doesn't have a lot of creatures in it either. Not too much of a surprise there, but just when I thought no Blood Barons or anything like that handing out. See, Sanchez has drawn a Unflinching Courage. Looks like we're going to play that after scrying with Temple of Plenty. So that's a 5/5. See, Boozer's going to take a look at his hand. Could cast Syncopate right now on Unflinching Courage, or you can say, you know what, I'll just take 5. As Syncopate would make Witch Stalker into a 4/4.
Yeah, and if Boozer does have a Supreme Verdict in hand, then this is a no-brainer. Just let this stuff happen, sweep away the board, and then stabilize from there.
Well, taking a look at his hand, he does have Supreme Verdict. I think the big issue here, Patrick, is that he's only got 1 white mana. See, there's a Mutavault, a card you oftentimes don't see in Esper decks.
Yeah. You see him a lot in blue-white lists, but Chris is solidly in the third color, playing multiple copies of Ultimate Price in his main deck. You know, you say a stray Mutavault here or there, Chris is playing 2.
Another copy of Temple of Plenty will allow Sanchez to scry, and he says, you know what, I'm going to keep that card. Now here comes Witch Stalker again. Boozer says, I think I have to take 5 again. Well, actually, Gorkland Rampager says, I'm going to make it more. Oh boy, another one? Okay, 5, 6, 9, 10, 12. That's 13 damage. That's going to put Boozer down to 2. Jeez.
That is a lot.
Yes, yes, that is.
Although if the leftover card in Sanchez's hand is Selesnya Charm, he may have been better served making a token at the end of the turn and then using Rampager in the case that Boozer has a Supreme Verdict this turn.
Well, actually, so here's what I actually kind of like about this. So he drew, I think he drew Temple of Plenty for the turn, but imagine if he draws Hallowed Fountain.
Yeah. It cuts off Hallowed Fountain, yes.
So actually, I like this play a lot here from Sanchez. It's very aggressive, but by putting him down to 2, those Ravnica Shocklands are no longer an out to this situation to cast Supreme Verdict. So there's a Mutavault that's going to come into play. Here's a Detention Sphere to take care of the rather annoying Unflinching Courage, which, to be fair, Booster could have syncopated that many moons ago.
Yeah, it wouldn't have changed the clock that dramatically, as you mentioned, the Witch Stalker would have grown, but...
Now here's a Madcap Skills on a Witch Stalker, and Boozer says, yep, I can't chump block that with a Mutavault. You win the game. Chris Sanchez up a game.
And you see Boozer with a deep and slightly annoyed breath there.
Hexproof doing what Hexproof does, annoying the opponent. Chris Boozer, we're going to take a look at his sideboard first.
A Doomblade, a Last Breath, a Gainsay, a Revoke Existence, a Negate, a Glare of Heresy, 3 Sing Collectors, 3 Soldier of the Pantheon, 2 Blood Baron of Viscopa, and an Archangel of Thune. I definitely expect the Glare of Heresy, the Negate, the Revoke Existence to all come in, as they're all actual answers to enchantments. I also feel like Chris maybe want to be a little more proactive to the board. It wouldn't surprise me if the 1 Archangel, for example, came in. It's an additional blocker and allows him to turn the game around and win pretty quickly. So additional answers to enchantments is paramount, and I think maybe he may want the Archangel as well.
Take to the sideboard here for Sanchez. He's got 3 copies of Glare of Heresy, 2 Fiend Slayer Paladin, 2 Mundane Touch, 4 Skylasher, 3 Mizzium Mortars, and a Ratchet Bomb. Well, I think we definitely love Mending Touch here, is that just is a way for him to counter Supreme Verdict effectively for 1 mana. Skylasher's a little bit interesting because, you could argue that a card like Celestial Charm doesn't play a huge role in this matchup, but you get those Skylashers in there, you're dodging Detention Sphere and Azorius Charm.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a positive there. It also gives you more threats to suit up, which is something that this deck could certainly use. And to be fair, you've also got some cards that are easy to sideboard out, like Chain to the Rocks.
Yeah, that's actually, so far, this is the second time that I've seen Naya Hexproof on camera today. It's actually the really nice thing about this deck. You have Chain of the Rocks, which is inefficient against control decks. And then you have Boros Charm, which is pretty inefficient against non-control decks. And so you already have some flexibility with how you get to sideboard in every match. It's not every piece of the puzzle is critical here. There's a lot of redundancy. And so you have some inefficient cards, and it's easy to make pretty substantial upgrades in the post-board games.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, Glare of Heresy, this is one of the few times where you don't really care about killing Detention Sphere, because Detention Sphere is normally not going to be able to target what it wants to target.
Yeah.
It's going to be taking down, a random Madcap skills or something like that. Who really cares?
Those are the kind of exchanges that cause Sanchez to win the game.
Yeah.
If Boozer has to spend his mana and cards on those kind of cards, because Sanchez has all sorts of enchantments.
Yeah.
And every time that a removal spell gets used on an enchantment, it's sort of reducing the overall impact that Supreme Verdict has in the game as well. And so Sanchez is definitely happy if that kind of stuff is going on.
Pretty interesting stuff here, because when you think of Hexproof, you think it might have a bad, Supreme Verdict deck matchup. But, you take a look at Boozer's deck list and Tan and Grace's before it, of course they have their 4 copies of Supreme Verdict, but they're so reliant on a card like Detention Sphere to clean things up, or Ultimate Price or Doomblade, and I don't think so. Not going to get the job done.
Yeah, this is a matchup that calls for Devour Flesh, and as we've noted on the broadcast a couple times already, Devour Flesh is a card that people are starting to move away from in light of the surgence of green-red monsters and similar decks.
Yeah.
So I think that Naya Hexproof has a natural advantage in that matchup, because green-red monster is not really well equipped to handle Hexproof creatures plus enchantments. And then the fact that people are removing Devour Fleshes from their decks altogether, or at least de-emphasizing it, also very good for this deck.
This feels like one of those weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised, given that Chris Sanchez is up a game, maybe he wins this match, whatever happens, happens. This feels like one of those weeks where Naya Hexproof could really snipe a tournament.
Right, and it doesn't require that much adaptation. If Boozer has a couple Devour Flushes somewhere in a 75, we're talking about this match at very different terms. Probably hard for Sanchez to win most games where Boozer draws a Devour Flush, but there are no Devour Flushes in Boozer's 75, which in my mind is a correct response to the metagame that we saw last week, but this is a different world.
For those of us keeping tabs on Grand Prix Richmond, 2,054 players pre-registered. Keep it going.
We're going to break that record this weekend, I'll tell you what.
All right, Hollow Fountain to start things off here for Chris Boozer. Take a draw, will Chris Sanchez. And we'll start off with a Temple of Plenty. One of the nice things, too, about this deck, I actually liked it, even though the Scrylands are a little bit, I guess, awkward, for lack of a better term, because they start you kind of off curve or what have you, the fact that it can help facilitate your draw so you don't have to draw perfectly every game like you had to with Ban Hexproof is really nice.
Yeah, and this isn't modern, the deck isn't trying to go 1 mana guy and kill you on turn 3.
Yeah.
There's a little more setup, and in a lot of matchups, Unflinching Courage is actually your ace, and you can deploy that much later in the game and get a lot of value out of it. So you can afford to play some comes-into-play tap lands without it totally ruining how the deck plays out.
Temple of Deceit here for Boozer. He also has a Temple of Silence and a Hallowed Fountain out there. So all of his mana. Same thing here with Sanchez. Let's see what threat Sanchez has. It's about time we put something on the table, and a Witch Stalker is what he's going to try to start with, and that's good to go. So Boozer, take a draw here. There's a Dissolve. You're a little late, but here's a Jace. See if Jace is going to go up. It is. So Witch Stalker is effectively a 2-3 right now, but I got a feeling it's going to be a little bigger than that.
Certainly there's that possibility.
Sanchez, taking a look at his hand. He does have an Unflinching Courage. You see him bring Sacred Foundry to the front. Left in Selesnya Charm. Also has a Boros Charm in his hand as well, so he is ready for Supreme Verdict. That's another nice thing about this deck as well. The fact that Supreme Verdict would be very good against this strategy, but the combination of Boros Charm and Mending Touch makes it so that you're not so bad against it.
Yeah, you have a lot of tools. The biggest problem, of course, is just you just have a lot of draws with no creatures. That's the biggest thing. But you do have a lot of ways to protect them once it actually happens.
This feels like the closest you're going to get to a combo deck in Standard.
Yeah.
You see Witch Stalker's going to go after Jace, take a bite out of the Architect of Thought, put it down to 1 counter, as Boozer's going to get to untap with that. Got a couple of cards in his hand, Detention Sphere among them. Again, this is one of the few matchups where D-Sphere against a creature deck, you're not all that excited.
You see, Boozer has brought in Soldier of the Pantheon. It is a good blocker against Voice of Resurgence, which is a problematic card for Esper control lists in general, but not so good against Sanchez's other threats.
Yeah.
And it's possible that Boozer just has so many bad cards in his deck, all this removal that really doesn't function, that Soldier's just better than the alternatives.
And as you mentioned when we were talking about during sideboarding, you know, people are moving towards you know, spot removal spells because of what happened last week in St. Louis because of Green Red Monsters. So Sanchez has picked his spot very nicely this weekend with his deck choice, as Attention Sphere will take care of Unflinching Courage, which again, not all that exciting, but what's got to be done, it's got to be done.
Yeah, these are really positive exchanges for Sanchez.
Sanchez does not forget the Soldier trigger, so he's going to gain a little bit of life here. And here comes Witchstalker. And there goes Jace. Sanchez will gain a little bit of life in this exchange. He will gain 4. As Jace did turn Witchstalker into a 4/5. And passing the turn back.
It's really hard to defend your Jace without Supreme Verdict against this deck.
And you see Supreme Verdict right now in Boozer's hand. I don't know if you can see that Mending Touch right now in Chris Sanchez's hand, but it's there.
We have Mending Touch and Boros Charm, not at the ready this turn, but it's not clear if Boozer is aware that this is a card he needs to be trying to play around here.
And there's a Jace. I can't even say limited all-star Mending Touch.
No, not even.
I can't, which makes me sad. Take a look here. Jace is going to minus. There's an ultimate price and 2 lands, so there's an ultimate price that can't kill anything and a couple lands that you don't really care about.
Yeah. I imagine this probably gets split Temple against Hallowed Fountain and ultimate price, but he's splitting land spells.
Well, lands are going to go, yeah. There's a Temple going to come into play. Put that right to the bottom here. Oh, tough guy Soldier coming into the red zone.
Well, it's not blocking. So.
That's for darn sure. Sanchez is going to go down a little bit more, down to 26. Sanchez draws another copy of Boros Charm. Supreme Verdict is virtually blank now. Where's Witchstalker want to go?
I had to imagine we're finishing off Jace here.
Looks like you've imagined correctly. Sanchez is going to go up to 31. It will be a 5-point hit this time.
And it seems like Boozer has tried to set up the game to the point where he has Supreme Verdict plus Dissolve backup, but Sanchez has actually two protections against Supreme Verdict in his hand right now. So if Sanchez keeps his mana up, he can just keep going. Yeah,
what he doesn't know is, you know, it's kind of nice for him to be able to get this Glade Cover Scout there. But as you mentioned, because he has 2 things, Boros Charm and Mending Touch, he can, you know, cast Boros Charm. Actually, I think he'd want to cast Mending Touch first, and then Boros Charm to save both the creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends if you feel like you're playing around a counterspell or not.
Yeah. Here comes Soldier. Any trades to be had? Sanchez says, no, I'll go to 29, thank you. And I think this is the play that you mentioned. That's what we're going to see here. There's a Supreme Verdict. And he's going to lead with Boros Charm, which isn't too big of a surprise, obviously.
Yeah. Because the alternative is he uses the 1 green spell to save 1 creature. Boozer actually has nothing as backup, and you just lose your Scout for no reason.
And now there is the back-breaking Mending Touch. We'll save the Witchstalker. Everything else is going to die. Dissolve's going to resolve, of course. So Boozer will get the Scry. He keeps the card on top and passes the turn back here to Sanchez, who's going to untap. He's going to take a draw. Don't forget, he's got that Boros Charm in his hand. He's got another copy of Selesnya Charm now. And take a bite out of crime. Attack for 5. Boozer's going to go down to 17.
And it's funny, you don't think of Unflinching Courage as being good against blue-white control decks, but Boozer, you know, potentially with Elspeth, potentially with Mutavaults he's trying to chump block with, the trample does matter.
There's a Temple of Plenty. That card's going to go to the bottom there for Boozer. Let's see what he kept on top. Anything to cast here?
I mean, very quickly left it on top.
Yeah, he really did last turn. Quickly put this card to the bottom with Temple of Enlightenment. Oh, Mutavault. That's less exciting than I think we were expecting.
Not a great turn for Boozer.
No. Chris going to just draw his card. And there's a Sacred Foundry going to come into play. Tapped. I feel like this is a situation where you can afford to play it untapped. Go down to 30.
He has some life to play with. You know, even if you're playing around theoretical syncopates you don't even know are in Boozer's list or not, it's very low cost to play the Sacred Foundry untapped.
Here's an attack for 5. Selesnya Charm for a little more damage.
I really like this play from Sanchez. He's making sure that he's using all of his mana each turn. He's leaving up mana so he can Boros Charm in response to a Supreme Verdict or something similar. And he's just picking a spot. He has 2 mana left over this turn. I'm just going to play this Selesnya Charm. It doesn't look great, but I'm just casting it so I don't die with stuff in my hand.
There's a copy of Supreme Verdict. Here's a copy of Boros Charm. So the Indestructible will save Witchstalker yet again. Now Sanchez will take a draw. There's a Stomping Ground. I also like, too, that Sanchez is not playing more than 1 threat at a time.
Yeah.
Stomping Ground going to come into play tapped. Looks like it's probably time to bash for 5 yet again. Still a 2-turn clock. Will he Selesnya Charm here, I guess, is a question. I like this previous use of Selesnya Charm. He's going to activate Mutavault. So this is going to be trample damage for 3. It's going to put Boozer down to 7. And then the Selesnya Charm can actually be lethal next turn.
Yeah.
And if not, hey, let's say something happens. You're just going to make a 2 to the end of turn 2.
A lot of flexibility with that Selesnya Charm, so no reason to just fire it off.
There's a Soldier of the Pantheon. So Sanchez quickly untaps. He takes a draw. What's he find here? It's a forest. So he's flooding out a little bit here. Attack for a bunch of damage yet again. Soldier going to get in front. Yeah, there's some trample damage yet again. Does not fire Selesnya Charm.
Yeah, certainly no point in doing it when it's not lethal with a Soldier of Pantheon in play.
Correct. Sanchez going to go up to a healthy 49. Boozer's at 3. There's a forest, pass the turn back. Mr. Boozer, you want to find a Supreme Verdict, I think. There's a awkward detention sphere, and that's going to do it. Chris Sanchez wins this match 2-0 over Chris Boozer. Naya Hexproof 7-0. And
that was a pretty impressive demonstration of the Naya Hexproof's power there, as Boozer was able to set up Supreme Verdict with Counterspell backup and then played another Supreme Verdict and still was not able to win that game.
Yeah.
Just really too many dead cards in this deck. It just has so much spot removal and detention